And Andy Ruiz, I think he's primed and ready to make a big year of 2021. And listen, if there's anything that boxing fans love more than a come up, it's a comeback. What's up, Barnhill family? Welcome back to the channel.
Yo.
So, Nick, for the first time since December 2019, we're going to see Andy Ruiz Jr. back in the boxing ring. A much trimmed down Andy Ruiz Jr., I might add. He ballooned up to over 300 pounds after his defeat to Anthony Joshua in their second installment. He says he's coming in the 250s, and he's lean, mean, and ready to fight.
Yeah, and the footage that I have seen and what he's been putting out on the internet definitely proved that what he's doing with Team Canelo and what those guys are helping him do with his weight and diet and his regimen is definitely working. He looks like he's not lost a lick of power, but gained a lot of speed, gained a lot of endurance, and obviously shed a few pounds, which is always going to help when you're a heavyweight fighter. And, you know, he's clearly got the knockout punch power, but he was lacking a little bit in the cardio and in the discipline side of things. So it's nice to see that, and I think we could have another tough fight on our hands.
Absolutely. And one thing you know you're going to get from the Reynosos and Team Canelo is excellent boxing instruction. But more so than that, you can get good boxing instruction from a lot of places.
Yeah.
Those guys and Canelo himself are consummate professionals.
Yes.
And they don't accept lack of discipline. They don't accept laziness. And Andrew Ruiz said as much, that if you show up with a bad attitude or with laziness, they will show you the door. They have the biggest prize fighter on earth right now that makes them all the money that they need to make. So they don't need the money from any other fighters. So it was the perfect fit for Andy Ruiz Jr. And here's the thing about Andy. We've seen Andy be able to be the underdog and have that grit and shock the world.
Right.
What we haven't seen out of Andy is for him to show up with the discipline and win when he's supposed to win. So once he got the money and the belts, and he shocked the world by knocking out Anthony Joshua, he kind of let himself go. He let himself fall into a bit of a rut. He let his discipline lack. And then, as we all know, what happened next, he came back with a very lackluster performance and lost to Joshua.
Right.
So what he needed more than anything was not to learn how to box again, but learn how to have that discipline. Learn how, when you have a Rolls Royce parked in your driveway, when you have a mansion, when you can take your family everywhere you want to take them, to find deep down the reason why you started doing this in the first place, and go out there and execute business when you're supposed to execute business. And he is a major favorite at minus 2,500 this time.
Wow. Yeah, and I think they've got that right. I do think that he belongs in the discussion of the top 5 current heavyweight boxers out there. All too often, the story of can a rich man fight, you know, comes about in the combat sports world, and you see it, and a lot of people go, well, they're not the same guy. They're not as hungry as when they couldn't afford a good meal, and they had to walk to the gym and these types of things. But, you know, you really do find true character when you can dig deep like that. You know, we always talk MMA, so you see people, somebody like Kamaru Usman is a perfect example of, he's the champ. He's been the champ. He's won the belts. He's made it to the top of the mountain. And yet now he's kind of creating a gap between him and the rest of the competition.
Right.
Whereas a lot of times over history, we've seen people get to the top of the mountain and then just wait for everybody else to get there. They don't really try to push the envelope or try to make the gap any larger than it is. And I think Andy Ruiz with this camp is going to be able to take his boxing skills, which are very good. He's a high-level boxer, even though he kind of doesn't look like it, and he was marketed as this super underdog, when in reality he had some great skills. And I do think that with the right training that he's getting with Team Canelo, they're going to amplify him and make him the true world champion that he can be, and they're really going to bring the best out of him.
I think you're right. The boxing skill was never lacking there.
Yeah.
And so what you get from Team Reynoso, Team Canelo, whatever you want to call it, is excellent training partners, excellent boxing instruction, but even more than that, strength and conditioning. You know, we saw him in some of his build-up videos lifting weights. He said, I've never lifted weights in my life. He's doing some resistance band movements, some kettlebell swings. You know, these are things that if you want to perform as a high-level athlete, you know, boxing skill will take you so far. And for Andy, it took him to becoming a world champion.
Right.
But, you know, if you want to really get to that next level and eclipse superstardom and become not just a champion, but a defending champion. And a lot of people say that you're not a true champion until you've defended the belts. I don't know how much I truly buy into that, but there's something to be said for that. Here's the thing. Chris Arreola, his opponent, is a very good, tough fighter. He thought he was going to be the first Mexican heavyweight champion, Mexican-American heavyweight champion. Unfortunately for Chris, he seems to have issue rising to the occasion in the big fights. Yeah. He won his first 27 matches, 27-0. Since then has gone 11-6. And in every title fight he's been in, a world title fight rather, he's lost that fight, being knocked out 3 times in the process. So this is a very good welcome back fight for Andy. I think a lot of people are expecting Andy to win this fight, and not just win this fight, but put a stamp on it, win it emphatically.
Yeah, I think that's a good call to make. I think Andy Ruiz has the skills. You know, like I was just saying, he has arguably better boxing skills, you know, as far as the sweet science goes, than a lot of the guys that currently rank higher than him in the boxing heavyweight division. You know, I wouldn't venture to say that Deontay Wilder is more skilled of a boxer, or Anthony Joshua is more skilled of a boxer than Andy Ruiz. I think he's right there with them and maybe a little bit advanced. The only one that sticks out far and above is Tyson Fury. I think his boxing skills and his mind for the sport is just a few steps above everybody else. And that's not exclusive to heavyweights. I think as far as the best boxers in the world right now, you've got Canelo, you've got your Teofimos, your Terrence Crawfords, your Lomachenkos. I still keep him in there, and your Tyson Furies. Those are like kind of my top 5-ish. And I feel like Andy Ruiz is somebody that shouldn't be just a flash in the pan. I feel like his story shouldn't end with he had one David versus Goliath moment and was able to get some sort of crazy victory that wasn't supposed to happen. No, his skills were there. He made it happen. And I feel like if he can just keep the fire and you know, keep the magic for a little while longer, he can really polish up his career to end it in a great way that, you know, people will look at for years to come.
Yeah, you know, and he's only 31 years old. He's still very young in the sport of boxing, especially in the heavyweight division. We've seen people at heavyweight be able to compete much later into their 30s because the power is still there, and the heavyweight division's not one that's really as fast as you see some of those guys that are, you know, 118s or whatever. They're just like, you almost have to slow your TV down to keep up with the punching volume, but heavyweight is not that way. I'm picking Andy Ruiz to win this fight. I'm picking him to win by finish. He's never been knocked out before. He's lost twice in his career, never been knocked out. Chris Arreola has been knocked out 3 times. And Andy Ruiz, I think he's primed and ready to make a big year of 2021. And listen, if there's anything that boxing fans love more than a come up, it's a comeback.
That's right.
And I think Andy Ruiz comes back in a big way. I think he finishes Chris Arreola by technical knockout in the 7th round.
Good call. Good call. And you're right. Tyson Fury is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
He came back in a big way, you know, and shocked the world. And now he's not only where he was, but he's above where he was when he left and became a 400-pound, you know,
depressed drug addicted person,
and alcoholic. So I like your prediction. I think the fight might go a little bit longer than that. I'll go 9th round, but I do think we see a stoppage. I think you see
good call. Yeah, now that I think I'm gonna stick with 7th, but Deontay did finish Arreola in the 8th, so I got to think that he's got a hell of a chin on him.
He's gonna be tough, and I think that this is a great level fight for Andy Ruiz right now, because if he wins this and wins it in a cool fashion, like a knockout or something, then we're going to see a little bit of boost confidence in him. And I think that will put him right back in there, and we'll see him fight somebody like a Luis Ortiz, or we'll see him in there with maybe one of the big 3 or 4 that's in the heavyweight division. and then another win over those guys, and he could be fighting Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder. And, there's the options are endless with a victory for Andy Ruiz.
And the more camps with Team Canelo and Eddie Reynoso overseeing him and the strength and conditioning, the better he's going to get.
Yeah.
And I think that he's a fighter that possibly could still be coming into his prime, and he's with the most lethal camp in the game. So I'm looking for some really fun stuff out of Andy Ruiz. I'm looking for him to get a finish in this fight against a very tough Arreola. But again, there is almost a decade in age difference here. Arreola is 40 years old. So I'm looking to see him get him out of there, and I'm looking to see him look spectacular in the process. And then, I'm very excited to see what happens thereafter.
Yeah, and shedding that weight is going to help him, because being younger, he's going to have the speed advantage, and now shedding the weight, he's going to be even faster than Arreola, getting off to those punches.
Yep.
At this level, it's a game of inches. So I'm sure he's learning a ton from Team Canelo as far as boxing goes. And they've got Ryan Garcia there, who's a social media guru. I'm sure he's learning a few things on that end too, and he could promote himself right into being one of the top fighters in the world.
Well, he's got his YouTube channel now.
There we go.
He blew past us with the subscribers and only 4 videos.
Good for him. The Destroyer. Good for him.
Andy the Destroyer. Guys, thank you all so much for watching our video. Most of the time we talk MMA, but we love boxing as well. So if there's a big boxing match, you're going to get that here on this channel as well. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, and subscribe. And check us out on audio where you listen to those podcasts. Until the next one, guys, have a great day.
Peace.